Everybody, it's Mikhail, and I'm here to continue my opinions on the results of the World Championships in London. Sorry about the last video, it accidentally cut off, and I wasn't able to finish my opinion on the 10K. But as I was saying in the last video, Mo Farah, these Africans really challenge Mo Farah. Mo Farah dominates these events year after year, and as you can see, it was a world-leading time at 26:49. They really pushed Mo Farah this time. They tried to go out early, they pushed the pace early, and which caused Mo Farah to respond early. And there was a couple times where Mo Farah tripped. I think he took the lead a couple times, and they pushed it back, and it was a really it wasn't as tactical as it normally was. And at the end of the day, Mo Farah outkicked both the Ugandan and the Kenyan to win the world title, which was great. It was the start of what was supposed to be a fantastic World Championships. Fortunately, it didn't live up to the hype, but it was great to see Mo Farah win in his home country. Kudos to Cheptegei, and to Nui for getting the silver and bronze medal. Now the marathon. I did watch a little bit of the marathon. Fortunately, it's so long that you can't really absorb it unless it's interesting, like the Olympics last year. But the marathon's all about pacing, getting those mile splits. It's not really about it's not really tactical or who can outkick who. It's all just about pacing, and it's a really tough event because it's 26 miles, and just to do that despite like the climates and the temperatures, it's really tough. So kudos to Kirui, Tola, and Simbu for medaling. Now, the 110-meter hurdles. Now, McLeod, who was the heavenly favorite coming into this event, is the only person in history to run a sub 1000 as well as a sub 13 110-meter hurdles. So he was favored to win. If you notice McLeod, how he hurdles, he doesn't have the best technique, but the speed that he gets off of the hurdles is just ridiculous. Like, no one will be able to catch him. I feel like he is going to be dominant in these hurdles for years to come. He's going to be a force to reckon with, and I'm pretty sure that I will see him in 2 more years at the same position, winning, maybe in a world record. But in this race, Shabinkov, which is the defending world champion, I was actually very surprised that he came in second. He's been struggling in the rounds. This season was kind of up and down for him, especially since he wasn't able to compete last year. But he had a fantastic start. He was actually leading halfway throughout the race, but once again, McLeod's speed took control, and he was able to close with the victory. Not the fastest time, kind of like a standard time for World Championships, but once again, this was the only gold medal from Jamaica, who had just disastrous World Championships. But I was glad to see that the favorite coming into this field managed to get the win. Now the 400-meter hurdles. Now Clement, the reigning Olympic champion, was projected to win this race. He was the favorite. He had the fastest time in the world, or second fastest time in the world. But unfortunately, he lost to Karsten Warholm, which I love this guy. He's so intense before the race. He's so pumped up. He really gets the crowd going, and he just explodes from the gun. He's very strong. He has a lot of strength, because able to sustain that pace throughout the entire race and to be able to win is incredible. Yasmani Capello of Turkey was closing in the final stages of the race, but he was too far away from Warholm that Warholm managed to still hang on for the W. Now this time wasn't really the fastest. Usually the winning times was around like 47, but due to the conditions and the type of race it was, Warholm managed to get the W. But he's a very interesting runner due to the fact that he doesn't really have a lot of foot speed coming off that last hurdle, but he has strength though, and that's really took place in this race. He was able to manage to get out from the gun and finish strong. Clement did not have a good 10th hurdle. coming off, so he wasn't able to close like he normally does. So unfortunately, he did not make history as being the only athlete to win in the Olympic Games and then win in the next World Championships. So now the 3,000 meter steeplechase. So coming in, Evan Jager of the United States had the fastest time at 8:01. He set it in the previous Diamond League meet prior to these championships, but he was in a contested field with Kipruto, who was the defending Olympic champion, and El Bakkali, who was having a outstanding 2017 season. So the race was kind of different from when it was in Rio, because in Rio, basically Jager, Kipruto, and Kemboi, who was also in this race, they basically separated from the pack straight from the gun. Now in this race, Jager was the leader. He was setting the pace in the race, so he did not go out like he did in the Olympics, which caused Kipruto and Bakkali both to pace him. Now, if Jager went out like he did in the Olympics, running that American record time around that time, he would have definitely could have really shaked up the field. Who knows? It would have made Kipruto and Bakkali's job even more difficult to try to catch up to him. But unfortunately, Jager did the unthinkable, trying to lead a race, but unfortunately it backfired and caused him to fade to third. Almost got caught by Mackenzie of France, but he managed to hold on. So now, basically, in that race, just to go back to that race, they did separate, but it was late in the race, like the final 3 laps, which really was set to be a slow time. You know, Kipruto came into these championships with some injury concerns, but he managed to pull it off. And as a championship runner, as a Olympic champion, he played his cards correct, and he managed to still win. Now the race walk. I did not watch the race walk, so I'm not sure. I can't really analyze the race, but congrats to all 6 of these medalists for placing in the race walk. So now the 4x1. Now, coming into these 4x1 final, this was supposed to be a matchup of USA and Jamaica. Unfortunately, in Usain Bolt's final race of these championships, he did suffer an injury, which was very devastating, especially to end the career of one of the greatest sprinters ever to live. But the U.S. were favorites, especially after that qualifying race, but were upset by the Brits, who were the hometown, who had the home crowd behind them. So I'm really glad that Britons, because they didn't really have a lot of medalists in these championships. They were basically supporting the other athletes from other countries. So I was glad to see them win, especially in the 4x1, one of the most exciting races of the championships. And congrats to Japan. I actually thought Japan would have been up there in the medal count, like first and second, but unfortunately it didn't happen. But they still managed to get the third place, which I'm very proud of. Hopefully they can really get it right by the next World Championships and potentially win the gold medal, now that Usain Bolt's retired and the future's not really looking bright for Jamaica. The 4x4. Now, the U.S. has been dominating. The men's U.S., both men and female, have been dominating the 4x4 for many years, dating back to probably 2000, like mid-2000s, back when Jeremy Warner was in his prime. But this race, they got upset by Trinidad, which were the bronze medalists back in the 2012 Olympics. At the end of the race, Fred Kerley, the American, had the second fastest time in the world. Unfortunately, he did not place in the 400 final. He was outkicked by Jareem Richards, who once again I feel has great potential. He was an underdog coming into these championships. we saw the potential, and he did medal in the 200, even that huge close, which could have gotten the win if he did that earlier. So it's very exciting to see what his future is going to be like, but just once again, very disappointing in curly. You know, he had extended collegiate season, then dating back to some Diamond League meets he competed in, and then the Worlds, so he was really fatigued. I'm not surprised. This was a depleted U.S. team. LaShawn Merritt most likely is going to retire after these championships, basically after the season. Wasn't able to be in this relay, which he normally is the anchor, but due to his semifinal run in the 4x4, in the open 4, I wasn't surprised to see him in these relays. And once again, congrats to Great Britain for medaling. You know, once again, they didn't have a lot of medalists, but it's good to pick up some relay medals. Out of all these races in the men's event, I would have to say my favorite was I would have to say it was between the 400-meter hurdles and the 800. Just because the 800 was an open field, and that surge that Boss had in the final 250, that was just incredible. I mean, Boss was an underdog. He had some injuries prior to these championships. He wasn't really noticed to be a favorite in this race, but unfortunately, with this field that didn't have Rudisha, didn't have Brazier, didn't have Poirier, who was all eliminated, were both eliminated in the semifinals. As you know, David Rudisha didn't compete. It was good to see somebody like Boss take control, take advantage of these notable absences and win. And Warholm, just due to his intensity he has before the race, how pumped up and excited he gets, I was blown away. I actually wanted him to win. I didn't want Clement to win. I'm just kind of anti-American, just being a little biased. So, but those were probably my top two races from the men's race. Once again, I feel like, as I said in my previous video, these World Championships were just a disaster, and all these upsets were just ridiculous. So this was just didn't like it as much. But once again, I had my opinions, so, and that's it. I will be doing another video on the female running events, so look forward to that in the next few hours, maybe tomorrow. We will see how it goes. Alright, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Peace out.